What's up, Rockstars? We got a news video for you. There's some big things, including Tainted Grail, to talk about, so let's get to it. Thank you to my channel sponsor, Into the AM. As a company that believes hard work and a great product is a proper way to conduct business, I am delighted to have them as part of the channel. They have some of the coolest graphic t-shirts around and an absolute best fit and feel that has continually exceeded my expectations. With new shirts arriving all the time and other products like boxers, hats, and even a monthly shirt club, I wholeheartedly recommend them to you. Check out the link in my description of this video for an exclusive 10% off everything they sell. As always, I hope you appreciate the video. If you do, obviously leave a like or a comment. I greatly appreciate it. Let's go ahead and dive in. And also, if I miss anything, leave a comment about that. If there's something you're looking at that I didn't cover, let me know. Okay, so we're starting out with FateForge. We're going with what's live right now that I'm covering, what's coming up, and then some like new stuff. FateForge Chronicles of Khan. This one kind of came out of nowhere for me anyway, but it's over 100,000, so it's doing well over 1,000 backers until 15 days ago, so long time to go for this. This is by Mighty Boards. They have been very successful in Kickstarter lately. I think they did Hamlet was the last one they did, at least the last one I covered. They have a hero cat cards unlocked. There you go. You can pause the video now and back it. Everything I talk about is linked down in the description below. I joke about the pause and back. I mean, you can if you want, I guess, but it's just funny because, I mean, cats will do it, man. That's why it's way up here. They know what they're talking about. But actually, I appreciate having the stretch goals right there. So this is an app-driven kind of board miniature game where you have your miniatures, you have the bosses and miniatures. You see this right here, 4 bosses you kind of get for free. And then you're fighting the discs. Like you would from like a Chip Theory game style game. Or if you bought like Distant Second Edition back in the day, you get the little token you get to fight. Kind of like that. But a little bit nicer than just the token. You can see they come in boxes here. I don't know if you keep everything in here, if it's just miniature storage, which is kind of odd. It's kind of like a Gloomhaven kind of thing. Except as far as I can tell, there aren't like hero unlocks. It's just the 4. So a little odd there, but you get a ton of stuff here. I mean, they're actually not doing it justice. Like there are 40 combat dice and they're all custom. Now, granted, you don't necessarily need to show all 40, but that's a lot. 110 skill cards, they show like 2. 110 plus skill cards. There are 111 skill cards. So it's a lot of game, a very deep RPG by the sounds of it, especially with that many skill cards, 40 weapons, 30 equipment. There are more weapons than equipment. That's my kind of game. I like that. Who needs armor when you got weapons? Traps and corruption cards and locked story cards and, you know, all this other kind of fun stuff. 92 enemy discs. I don't know exactly how many are repeated. It looks like it's just an image, though. There's no real data on it. So there is that. And you get little tiny chicken drumsticks. So that's fun. Or maybe it's a whole turkey leg. I don't know. Then you get the free boss miniatures. They're ranging where this is like 62 millimeter. This one's 55 millimeter. That's probably about the size. Now, it's kind of interesting because this guy looks fairly human, but he does have horns, so maybe he grew large, and that's why he's 55. You do get a little encyclopedia you can dive into there, and then they have one expansion available. That's this one, comes with this lady here, a new character, the Enchantress. So they list her like normal otherwise, so it's, I think, very assumed you kind of get this. But yeah, I mean, 18 hero skills, I'm assuming it's for her, so it looks like each one maybe get 18, at least for this. Maybe you can dual spec or something. Again, there's a lot to dive into here. But the pledge levels are actually quite nice. So you get 99 bucks essentially for the adventurer thing, or if you want to add the expansion, it's about 130. That's very good pricing, actually. That's quite nice. Here's a little bit of how battles work anyway. This is just battles, not like the whole story and all that. But as you can see, you can kind of determine who goes first and whatever. They have different play modes. Here, like thematic mode, where you, during your turn you can't make decisions. Very kind of cool how you just plan it out like that. That's neat. And yeah, it talks a little bit about the story, but not like a huge amount there. Otherwise, though, it looks very, very cool. There's definitely a lot here, like a lot here. And I really like the art. That looks great. And US shipping looks to be about 26 bucks for the whole shebang. So at least it's not anything crazy, but it helps when it's not some big, giant miniature board game. At the end of the day, we play some expensive board games. Moving on, we got Dungeon Universalis, new challenges, expansion, and reprint. This is doing quite well. I'm actually really happy to see this. Over 2,000 backers, 200,000+ raised. This game gives me anxiety, and I mean that in a very complimentary way towards it. There is so much stuff. This isn't so much a board game as it is a lifestyle. It's one of those kind of games where you could just play, like, oh yeah, I play board games. I play Dungeon Universalis. Oh, what if I play Dungeon Universalis? I think like this right here, just this added here, they claim is like 100 plus hours. And honestly, I believe it, and then some. I mean, I think the plus is really big there. And again, like the core box, $85. Like, that's not bad at all. You can get the whole classic for 125. For what you get here, it's crazy. 340 cards, 100 plus hour quest book here. You get books. Again, I talked about the cards. All the different kinds of cards. You get tile sets here, 30 double-sided tiles, sewers, caverns, village, temple, 2mm thickness, useful to faithfully represent the quests. So you have all of that here. That's just map tiles. You have standees with 288 standees to represent the new enemies that the heroes will face in the new adventures. That's just the new enemies, guys. 288. It's crazy. It's insane. This game blows my mind. It's so much stuff. It's really like a lot. It's rated well too. People love it. 942 cards and a card organizer in the core box. 124-page illustrated rule book, 124-page rule book. Woo! Basic rule book for 40 pages, just for the basics. 92 pages for the first quest book. They're offering quest book 3 now. BC Era 1 is 64 pages. I mean, this, guys, like, I don't know if they can fit everything in this game. It is so much stuff. Hey, look, I recognize that thumbnail anywhere. So yeah, anyway, it's a lot. So if you want, you know how some people just play Shadows of Brimstone, some people just play Kingdom Death Monster, you could just play this game. Feel free to take a look. If this speaks to you, again, there is, of course, it linked down below, along with everything else. Dungeon Brah. This is crazy, is what it is. It looks crazy. 38,000 raised, over 1,000 backers, and it's very cheap at the beginning anyway, and we'll kind of talk about that. So it's essentially a card game with an attitude, obviously, and an art style to match it. So it talks about how to play, and you can kind of walk through that a little bit. It's very high level on how you're playing. So there's not like really fine-tuned information there when it comes to just scrolling through the page. So I'm going to actually skip to what is on offer here. Dungeon Diver Pledge, $20, 100 cards, and the manual. That's the core box. So it's very much just a card game, but $20 for 100 cards, I'm pretty okay with that. It's 50 cents a card with all the art on there. I don't know how many repeats or anything like that, but it seems fairly decent. It's only 100 cards. They're making these boxes look really big, I feel too. But then 30, and you get this Call of Cthulhu expansion. However, how many cards are in here? I don't know. It doesn't say. It just says you get it. So yeah, 10 more bucks. So another 50% of the core pledge, and you get this expansion. Is it 50 cards? I don't know, maybe. And then it jumps up. Look at this, 140 for the Cultists of Cthulhu, where you get a base version, you get the expansion pad, and then you get you illustrated. So it then jumps up to like this, you're featured in the game stuff. So really, it's 20 or 30 bucks, which is still nice. Even if it's the 30 bucks, 100 plus cards, still not too bad. So definitely, I mean, a great deal. It's just, they could explain the game, I think, a bit more. I think that would help them out a little bit. And the art style, it's love it or hate it, I suppose. Kingdom Come Deliverance, the board game, 283,000, almost at 300,000 with 1,819 backers, so 11 days to go. I unboxed and reviewed this. I'm going to link to that down in the description below as well. You won't find my review in here. I don't know if that's because I was late or because I'm critical. I'm critical in all my reviews, so you guys know that. So sometimes I make it to the campaign page, sometimes I don't. Just kind of depends on there. And honestly, I don't hold it against any of them. I can understand why you wouldn't post one of my reviews on your board game. Or at least on your campaign page, if that makes sense. It is very app driven, kind of talk about all of that. Very thematic, very, very thematic. Well, let's go to what you get though. So the base pledge is $126, and that is with standees. Now you are getting quite a bit of game there, and that is included, it says, with a little asterisk there, so be sure to read that asterisk. But it's definitely including the app cost of making an app in there, and the voice acting and the music and all that. It's a very professional app already, and so that does obviously come with a cost, because otherwise I'd feel that's kind of too high a price, if that makes sense. But it's a very premium experience. when it comes to what you're doing. If you want miniatures, it's 175, which is fairly pricey. The miniatures are quite large though, so it's nice, and again, it just adds to that theme. Honestly, if I was to play this, I'm going all in on theme. I would add the miniatures too. I'm not backing it, but if you are planning to, in my opinion, I would say actually, if you're going to do it all the way. This game is a very premium experience when it comes to thematic storytelling, and it would be a shame, I think, to not have that. Unless you don't paint your miniatures. If you don't paint your miniatures, then it's kind of flip-floppy. You might want the standees, because they won't be in just gray, of course, but these minis would be super easy to paint, guys. I highly suggest you just... you could, in a weekend, I think you could probably paint all of these. It's not that bad. But anyway, yeah, you can kind of see them all here. And again, they're quite large. And it's just nice to walk up to a guard and, and see them there when you're talking to them, So anyway, that is available still for a little over a week now. Almost at 1 million. KeyForge Winds of Exchange. Guys, KeyForge is very popular, and it's showing here 5,000 plus backers, 1 day left. So seriously, if you need to pause, go ahead and do that. Pause and take a look. This is probably the last time I covered it. I've covered it many times. If you're new, you should definitely subscribe so I can let you know what's coming out. That's a weird snail dude. That's all I'm saying. I don't know how I feel about that. So I've covered this quite a few times. I don't want to repeat too much, but obviously you get more cards, a ton more cards, which is super cool. That being said, again, you can spend quite a bit of money on there if you so choose. Next up, we have Necromolds Call to Arms expansion reprint. This still has 10 days to go. Almost 500,000 raised. They are doing very well for themselves. I'm actually surprised. I always felt it was kind of indie. This, to me, speaks more to me than I think the meeples that they used to do. First of all, it's a little bit more thematic. It's kind of fun. You essentially get the Play-Doh mold, and then you have your miniature, but then you can like stick things in them, right? Like a sword, and now it's attached with the sword. And it's just sticking into the Play-Doh. When you're done, boom, it goes back into Play-Doh. It's actually pretty cool. I don't know exactly how long that lasts, but they definitely lean into that, I think, very, very much when it comes to, you get rings to smash them and stuff like that. If you have kids, they would love to play this, I am sure, as long as they're okay being a little competitive, because obviously you can fight, but like your army is however many minis you can make out of the Play-Doh thing and stuff. So yeah, fun art, very colorful, kind of pricey. It's definitely a novelty thing when it comes to making your minis this way, but also pretty darn cool too. So it definitely has some charm. It makes me smile anyway. Okay, Tainted Grail, Kings of Ruin. This is coming out shortly after I post this. So it'll be a little bit, but you want to save $8 and go ahead, follow the link, click the follow. 40,000 other people have done it. You won't be alone. Don't worry. You won't be weird. You'll be joining a lot of people doing it. You essentially get an $8 expansion, this guy right here, for free. So may as well cost you nothing. And then of course, even if you don't have the emails afterwards, you know what, you can click on subscribe. But yeah, this is big. This is like going to be huge. Of course it's going to be big. $99 by the way too, which is awesome. As you can see, they've shown a lot when it comes to what they're offering and what they're doing. They've added a lot to this page. Feel free, again, it's linked down in the description below. Feel free to take a look at it all, see what all is new. They're also doing a 2.0 reprint. This is a good deal, by the way. $119 for the game and its stretch goals. The cheapest I could find is like on the Game Steward right now for $130, so it's definitely cheaper. That being said, you have to wait, but you do get the 2.0 version. But if you want to play it now, you could always go to Game Steward. That's not a terrible price for it, but by golly, $119 for that plus the stretch goals. Even though you're paying a lot in shipping, it's still totally worth it in my opinion. So definitely, if you're interested, go ahead and do that. And like most of their games, Aetherfield, Tainted Grail, stuff like that, they came out with an errata pack, and for Aetherfields and Tainted Grail specifically, to take out the grind, right? So they kind of artificially padded the experience a little bit, and it was a lot of upkeep and stuff like that. And so they kind of streamlined that a little bit, along with some other things. Very well rated, very highly recommended. I believe that Quackalope said that it was the best writing he has ever seen. Among the best writing he has ever seen in any book, game, movie, product, ever, anything. I'm assuming he just doesn't read very much, because I think that's a little silly for a translated prototype. But I'm glad that he likes it, and I know a lot of people like it, and so that's super cool to see people excited about it. And I'm excited to finally have a game that everybody can kind of rally behind and be yeah, it's awesome. It's the best thing since sliced butter, if you watch some people, I guess. But no, seriously, it looks really good. Next up, we have Temple of Horrors 2.0. This comes out a little bit beforehand, which I think is a huge mistake. At least it's before and not after, but this is a 2.0. They're trying to come back, and I think that's great. However, on GameFound, this is going to be all hands on deck Tainted Grail fest here real soon, and Temple of Horrors is going to be in the shadow, in the deep shadow. So hopefully it brings enough traffic there that all ships rise kind of thing for them, and some of the changes that they've done, they've been talking, as you can see, with all kinds of people there. So like, it's great that they're doing that, but I do worry about anything super indie that struggled the first time launching again with Tainted Grail on the same website. Okay, this is cool. This is super cool. We're going to go on and play this a little bit. So if you don't know, this is OrcQuest. Monolith is coming out with OrcQuest. If you are a backer of OrcQuest and you never got your game, if you didn't know, they never did deliver it. One of the bigger, I don't know, I want to call it a scandal, one of the bigger issues with Kickstarter and kind of the things that popped up. But anyway, you can get your all in here soon, as long as they reach 200,000 in funding. I'm sure they will, so I'm not too concerned about that. But that is definitely coming, which is super cool to see, because I know people were totally wanting that. Now, there is a little bit of oddity around if you didn't pay for the all-in, you're now getting the all-in. You have to pay VAT, and you have to pay shipping. The VAT you never did pay. The shipping, I think you did pay. You'll have to pay that again. But then you get your pledge. You don't have to back it or anything like that. You're going to get the all-in of what it was. And that's because they've changed how it was done so that they could package it better and kind of make it a smarter product with their experience. And that involved essentially just making the game bigger. Monolith doesn't make small games, as you know. So yeah, very, very cool to see. So they're coming out with this to kind of help the community a little bit, help people that didn't get theirs, and allow other people to get the game. So I'll definitely be covering this. You better believe it. Come here real soon, I guess. All right, next up, Forged. This is an Adventure Series 1. Now, this kind of scares me, but kind of doesn't. This is a whole lot of minis for cheap. This is pre-assembled plastic RPG minis, 101 plus, for $119. If they get stretch goals, they're going to add another 111 minis for a total of 212 miniatures for $120. And these are really good miniatures. So you can see there are repeats, right? 3 there, 3 there, 3 there, but nothing huge. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, like there's a whole lot of mushroom men there, though they are separate sculpts a little bit, right? This one are the same. So they're kind of alternating them. There is a little bit of repeat there, but that is massive. Now, why does this worry me? Because I've seen this fail drastically with like Fantasy Series 1. That should ring a bell to some of you. Okay. This can get really bad because it costs a ton to ship and to manufacture and all this stuff. It's very expensive. And when you do this, it better be wildly successful or you're going to be out of money. Now, why am I still kind of okay with this? Why am I even showing you this and saying, hey, it's linked down below. Feel free to follow it if you want some RPG minis or just minis to paint or anything like that. That is because it is by Broken Anvil, who is a very well-established and well-to-do miniature STL creator. I've covered their Patreon and their My Mini Factory site, all that kind of stuff for a long time now, actually. They're very well-known. They're very popular there, and they do well for themselves. So I think they have the capita and other revenue streams to excuse something like this and for it to be really big. But just as an FYI, like it normally is a sketch thing. Here, I think it's okay. I think it's all right, guys. But yeah, just, you know, it's like, ooh, did you have to do the Adventure Series? Why do you have to do Series 1? Why don't you call it something else? But yeah, super cheap for all the, like, look how big this dragon mini is. And they do a great job with their sculpts, by the way. They're fantastic at what they do. Normally they do 3D printing, so it'll be a little bit different here. It'll be kind of interesting to see how that translates to mass production. But yeah, it's launching in 21 days, 21 and a half days, really. Okay, next up, Monty Python's Co-circular medieval reenactment program. Okay, this is interesting. It's coming out in October. It's an RPG, but also kind of not, which is wild. Now, I don't know who these people are, but it says Meridian, Idaho, which is where I live. So I'm going to try and find out what's going on here with Exalted Funeral. Maybe I can get some early look into it or something like that. I'll let you guys know. It's not that big of a town, so that'll be kind of interesting to see. Over 5,000 already following it, of course, Monty Python. It's very much influenced by Search for the Holy Grail because it's the medieval setting. However, it kind of spans their entire, music and stage and TV shows and like the life of Brian and all this other kind of stuff is there too. That being said, they made it a big point to not just be a quote fest. It's not just reenacting specific scenes. It's more taking a lot of the stuff there. There is actually an article I'll link to you from Dicebreaker that does a great job showing and talking about all of this. And kind of what you're doing. So for instance, you have a character that you make up that comes from either silly or serious traits, and depending on how much you critically hit or critically fail, those can change on how serious it is of one. The DM actually is kind of like the program manager trying to like get everybody going, and if people start dying or being arrested or the Spanish Inquisition gets them or something like that, right? You can actually get fired as the DM, and maybe somebody else has to do there. So the DM's kind of playing the game with them in a very real sense, trying to essentially corral this crazy group of psychos to do this story. It's very much taking Murder Hobo to a next level is what it sounds like to me. It sounds really, really funny. It sounds like a blast. It sounds like it's that type of humor, but without just one for one kind of doing the scenes. I mean, and I mean, you can see the foot. Like, it's definitely taking a lot of inspiration from it and using that IP to its fullest. But it definitely sounds like a lot of fun. I'll try and follow up on it for you guys, but that is coming out soon as well. Next up, we have Wonderland's War, Shards of Madness, an expansion and reprint by Druid City Games. This is coming out in October as well. Now, this has been doing very well. I heard from Game Brigade. He said that he actually had a lot of fun with the Wonderland's War that he has, so that's great. He didn't invite me, but that's because he knows I don't play board games. But seriously, it looks super cool. And Druid City Games has really been playing it safe and doing well for it. This is something that companies do very often. So they had this really big issue with Bloodstone, right? And they split up from Skybound Entertainment, all this other kind of stuff. And so what did they do? They did a new Tidal Blades, which is what people wanted anyway. And look at that. It did really well. So now they're doing another thing of Wonderland's War. It'll probably do really well. Playing to their strengths, playing a little bit safer, at least for now, until they can try something new. Hopefully they still do. I very much appreciate a company that can have their bread and butter, giving people what they want, which is not a bad thing, and making good money doing it. And that's safer. And then kind of using that to fund their own personal kind of fan projects. I feel SFG does that a little bit as well, or Steamforge Games. So I think it's a smart way to do business. And as long as you don't just do the highly marketable repeats and stuff like that, and actually do that kind of newness too, I think it helps as a company to do that. Blacklist Games sold Street Fighter V Champion Edition Legends. If you recall, they were going to release this game, and then, of course, never did because Blacklist Games can't release anything right now. So what they did is they sold it to Colossal Games, who were launching their own campaign that they are solely in control of, that they're going to develop it and get all the money from it. And they paid Blacklist Games a fee to essentially do this, to buy their rights to make this game. This partnership allows Blacklist Games to collect funds, which nearly half are earmarked or purpose made to deliver games to previous Blacklist campaigns. More on this and other actions on Blacklist's next announcement. So I'll be letting you know on the next announcement. So half of that is being set to help deliver content. The other half, I'm assuming, is paying people's pay stubs and rent and whatever other fees they have for people that actually work there. That's my assumption. We don't know how much it is. We'll never know how much it is, of course. And you guys can debate all you want down in the comments below if half is the correct amount or not. Companies survive, of course, but you also need to focus on actually delivering your stuff and not just paying yourselves while you don't deliver the product that you sold. So, I can understand the argument. Feel free to have that. Kind of interesting, but at least you're doing stuff. And honestly, selling IP is something you do before going under anyway, right? It's like the normal thing that you do. You're like, oh crap, we're dying. Well, here's everything I can sell, right? It's kind of how that works. Next up, if you didn't catch this, I did a whole video on this. This is by Chip Theory Games. They lost, and I quote, hundreds of thousands of dollars of potential sales. Essentially, E-Star goofed up and didn't package their games right and put repeated tokens in there. And so now they're going to have to either reprint those and stick them back in, or go through them all and see what's what. Or, I mean, at that point, I imagine they don't trust anything in there, and they need to check at least a certain amount to make sure that everything's on the up and up. The last time I heard E-Star goofing up this much was the Melted Soldier for Nemesis by Awakened Realms. E-Star does their manufacturing as well. Really goofed up there. They're paying for the fix, but it's not like they're paying them hundreds of thousands of dollars on lost sales that they were going to have at retail for the holiday season that they no longer will have. So that's kind of a huge bummer for sure. I'll keep you updated on how they handle that, how they're working with that, how that might affect Skyrim and all of that, because they're also working on trying to see if they can get E-Star, whether paying or not, to speed that along at least. But yeah, I mean, at least, give them a moral boost shout out there. All right. This one, Masters of the Universe, Fields of Eternia. If you didn't know, this is by the Archon Studio. They will be coming out with new stuff here very, very soon. New expansions, new miniatures, new stuff, right? They're definitely investing in this. It's a fun game. I did a review and an unboxing. Again, link down to that down in the description below as well. This is only available in Europe. What I'm covering here is some changes, some issues. So the first one is that you might have noticed that stores are saying, hey, all these expansions are available. Now, that was kind of confusing because if you go to the why back now, stretch goals and expansions will not be available in stores. Expansions are available in stores. Now, what they're saying here is that should have said add-ons. Now, that's also kind of confusing because you can go to add-ons here. The add-ons are this miniature, the copy of the stretch goals, and this tower, okay? Now, they say here that all the items that are exclusive are labeled as such in the original campaign site. This is the original campaign site, and I don't really see it labeled any differently one from the other. Like this doesn't really read to me any different than, like this. Like none of this feels like it's saying anything different, right? This is all the same. So I don't know where it says that. I'm sure it does somewhere. I doubt they're just making it up, but it's not very obvious. It was very much a, hey, this is Kickstarter exclusive or GameFound exclusive. So that's that. I don't really care about the owning up to that. I just say you goofed or something, you changed your mind. I don't care. This is why I tell every company, if you are listening, if you are watching and you sell a product, don't say something is Kickstarter exclusive. Don't say it. Say that you currently have no plans for retail and leave it at that. Don't ever back yourself into a corner where you can't make money as a business because of something stupid you said before, because I'll never get to that point. I'll never be that. And then suddenly you have the next Gloomhaven on your hand. And you're like, oh my gosh, this is selling hotcakes. And people are coming at me saying, hey, we want to sell it. And now what? You can't because of some stupid thing you said on the, this game didn't fund because it was exclusive. This game didn't fund for that. It funded because it looked like a good product and people wanted it. The only people you're going to upset typically are scalpers and people that really are into like, you do what you say, honor system kind of thing. Me personally, I'm never against more gamers enjoying a good product. So if people at retail think this is great and are able to play it, I'm happy that happened. I'm just not happy that they said, hey, it was exclusive and then not, even if it was by accident. That being said, never say it's exclusive. Just stop it. Stop with the FOMO. Your FOMO isn't going to sell your game. If it is, it's a crap game anyway. If you have a good product, you don't need the FOMO. People will back it. Don't be like, this is your one chance to get it. Just say you don't have any plans. It still kind of does the whole FOMO thing for you if you really want that, and it doesn't matter. There's another issue though, and in fact, they talk about some better news, but it's still kind of an issue here. You have this super cool dice tower. And they give some measurements here, 150 by 151 by 141. It might be 1.5 millimeters shorter. They essentially decided to make this themselves, and that's how big their themselves can make it. The problem is that it's clearly listed as 20 centimeters, which is 200 millimeters, not 150 by 151 by 141. So it is smaller, and it was like this all over the place, even here, 20 centimeters. In fact, it still is 20 centimeters shown there, but it's not going to be. So people are a little bummed about that. In my opinion, that's slightly nitpicky. If I've backed enough crowdfunded stuff now to where if something has to change or something doesn't work out or they have to do something, what you see isn't necessarily what you're going to get. I'm not too concerned about that. It doesn't actually bother me that much just because I know that they are trying to make a good product, and them making it, they make good stuff. So they're manufacturing it there instead of overseas with like eStar, which is how they do a lot of their printed material. I just got done talking about how eStar completely ruined an entire delivery of a mega game, okay, for a huge publisher. Like, there's risks there. Chronicle X was held up for a long time because they were just waiting on eStar stuff, actually. So having the extra logistics isn't always a good thing. There are benefits to it, I'm sure. So I'm not necessarily against that. But again, it's one of these things where it's like, you got to work on your communication. You got to talk better. You got to respect what you actually say. And like at least say, hey, we know we did 20 centimeters, but it turns out, like, just explain it. Just talk. Backers will listen. Not all backers. I mean, some of you viewers are probably yelling at me right now. Like, you can't please everybody, and that's fine. But you can do better, I think, at communicating as well. So hopefully that improves as well. And guys, that's really it. That's all I had. If you have anything that you're tracking that I missed, please let me know down in the comments below. I'll be sure to add it to the description along with all the stuff that I covered today. Guys, enjoy the rest of your day. I'll talk to you guys again very, very soon about how I make money. You might be interested in that because I'm going to be talking about something that I don't believe anybody has really talked about before, but trust me, it's a major income boost. All right. Anyway, with that, take care. Bye, guys.